Hello, beautiful people. How are you all doing? I trust everything is moving okay. I trust everything is in perfect condition. Yes, today we have yet another video with Gifted Hands Fashion House, and I would like to teach you how to make this beautiful gown. Yes, just like what you're seeing on this video now, I'll be teaching you how to make this gown. There's nothing difficult about this gown. You can see the sleeve, a puffy sleeve, and also interestingly we'll be making a double cutting gown. Like cutting it is going to be, we are using a double cutting method to make this gown. Okay, as you can see my fabric here, I've folded it into four. All right, before I forget, I would like to thank all of you that are my subscribers and those of you that have joined this family and are following us. May God richly bless you. But if you are a passerby or maybe you are with us but you've not subscribed, please kindly click on that subscribe button. It costs nothing to subscribe. Subscribe so you can be part of us, and whenever we make new videos, you'll be able to get them easily. Okay? All right. Now, this is our work. Like I said earlier, I folded my fabric into four already. This is the first and this is the second. And I also told you I'll be making a double cutting work here. So to make a double cutting, I need to place my front and my back together, and I'll cut both of them simultaneously. Now, I want to take my measurement, but before that, I'll be using this line, this salvage line here. I'll be using this line as my starting point. You can see I'm working with a white fabric, so I wouldn't want to make uh, to stain it with my chalk. I'll be marking, but just little. So before that, I folded this work with my hip measurement, okay? And it's going to be a straight cutting. There's no half cut to this gown. So I'm working with a hip of 52. 52 divided by 4 will give me 13. And I added about 3 inches to 13 to get 16. You can see it here. All right. And then you also have behind this fabric, the one I'm touching now, this particular one, you have about 2 inches extra allowance added to it. So this is for the back and this one here is for the front. But mind you, all measurements will be taken from this front part. Like all measurements will be taken from this point, not this, okay? So now I'm going to take my measurement. I'll be taking the chest line of 9 inches. Yes, 9. And then I'll also take my underbust. I'm working with an underbust of 16 inches. Here's it. From there, I'll take my half length. I'm working with a half length of 19 inches. Here's my 19 inches. And I'll also take this half length here. Another word for half length is waistline. So this is my half length to my hip line is my next measurement. Since I'm not cutting off from the half length, okay? Since I don't want a half cut to this gown, I'm taking everything together. So what I need now is my waistline to my hip line, or my half length to my hip line. So my half length to my hip line is normally done with 7 to 8 inches. You can use 8 inches if the person is fat, and you can use 7 inches if the person is on a slimmer side. So right now, I'll be using 8 inches for this. Here's my 8. And then the next measurement is my full length. So this is the full length. The only thing I need to remove from this full length is my allowance of 1 inch. Okay? So this person, her actual full length is about 43. So here is it from this shoulder point. From this point, I will have to measure the full length of 43, and then I already have my full length of 43 plus my 1 inch seam allowance, which gives me 44. So having done this, I'll have to connect these lines, but I'm not going to do it so that this fabric won't have some stains. Okay, so the next thing I'll do now, I'm going to take my shoulder measurement. I'm working with a shoulder of 16. 16 divided by 2 is 8 plus ½ inch seam allowance, 8.5. So here's my 8.5. And then I'll connect I'll connect, or from this chest line here, I can still mark 8.5 so that I'll be accurate with my measurement. So here's 8.5. So I'll connect a straight line down to this point, straight line here, and then I'll cut from here. Okay, here's what I'll do. I'll use white chalk to mark it. Okay, so here's my straight line, and then I'll connect it to this point. You may not see it, but just follow the pattern of what I'm marking. You'll be able to get it. So I have my armhole here. I'll need to connect this armhole twice because I'm making a double cutting method. So this is the first armhole that I've just connected, and this first armhole we go for the back. Then for the front armhole, I need to connect it again. So I'm connecting twice. For the front armhole, I have an armhole length of 9 inches. Half of it is 4.5. Here's 4.5. And then I'm going to take 0.75 from this back and connect it as well like this. You know, the front armhole and back armhole are not the same. So this is for the front armhole, and this one here is for the back armhole. Hope that is okay. Now, I'll measure out the neck. I'm working with a neck of 3.5. All widths are always the same, just the length differs. Okay, so whatever you are using for your neck width should always be the same. Here, I'm using 3.5, so 3.5 will go for this front and for the back. Now, the depth I can use for the front, I can use 5. And for the back, I can use 3. So that depends. So which means this is for the back and this is for the front. So I'll connect it as well. Then I need to get my shoulder slant, 1 inch shoulder slant. Here is it. And I also need to get my shoulder allowance. Here is it. So I think this is all for the upper part. The next thing I'll do, I'm going to take my bust measurement. I'm working with a bust of 49. 49 divided by 4, I'll get 14.5. So I'll place my tape here and mark 14.5. So 49 divided by 4 is 12.5. So I'll place my tape like this and measure out 12.5 plus, can use about 2 inches seam allowance. So here's what I have. I'll mark it here. This is my 2 inches seam allowance. Now we have our half length, the underbust. You can see it here. Now for this underbust, I'm going to take my underbust measurement. I'm working with an underbust circumference of 42. 42 divided by 4 is 10.5. Here is my 10.5 plus 2 inches seam allowance I have here, plus 2 inches seam allowance. So here's what I have. Then from there, I'll move to my half length, which is also my waist. I'm working with a waist of um 42.5. 42.5 divided by 4 is 10.625, plus 2 inches seam allowance will give me 12.625. So I'll mark it here. Now at the hip, I'm working with a hip of 52. Divide by 4, I have 13, plus 2 inches seam allowance, I have 15. So since this will be a pencil dress, all I need to do is this 15 I have here, I'm going to reduce 1 inch from this 15 to get 14 so that I can get my pencil. So I marked 14 here. Now I'll connect the lines from my chest line to my under bust, from the under bust to my half length, from the half length to my hip line, and from my hip line to my full length. So here's what I have. If you want yours to come with a dart, you can add 1 inch allowance for your dart. So let me do that because obviously I'll be making a dart for this work. So my front dart, but if you don't want a dart to be on it, you can leave it like this. My front dart, like the dart for my front work, starts from 12 inches. Here's 12 from my front dart. Now from these 12 inches, I'm going to take my nipple to nipple first. I'm working with a nipple to nipple of 9 inches divided by 2, 4.5 plus half 5. So here's my nipple to nipple measurement. I'm going to take my hip line. Remember, this is the under bust half length. This is my hip line here. So this hip line, I'm going to mark at the hip line the same 5 inches needed for my nipple to nipple. Now from this hip line, I'm going to go up by 2 inches, which means the length of this dart will obviously start and stop here. It will start from this 12 inches and then stop at this hip line. Okay. So this is all for the dart. Please, this fabric is very transparent. It's a white fabric, as you can see, and the cutting might not be, the markings might not be too clear for you. We have other videos where we made this dart and where we did same work, so you can check on other videos for clarification. So I'm going to cut it now. This double cutting method, whenever you want to cut, start with the back cutting first. So what I'll be cutting here is the back. So I've cut it out. Now, what I'll do next, I'm going to remove the back, which is this. I'll remove this back and then retrace my front cutting. So the only thing I need to retrace here is the armhole and the neckline. But before I do that, I'm going to mark my zip allowance and notch it as well. So here's my zip allowance at this lower part. Then I'll break it open, I'll slit it open. take it off. I'm done with this back, so I concentrate now on this front part, the armhole. And the neckline. So this is just all that will be needed. Now let's go to the sleeve cutting. I'd like to use this for my sleeve. It's going to be a balloon sleeve, just like the one you are seeing on this video. So I use this for my sleeve. Here's the fabric I want to use for my sleeve, and it's going to be a puffy sleeve. I've measured out a length of about 18 inches. On this fabric that I just cut, if you measure around the armhole, you see that I have an armhole of about 15 inches. Everything is 30, but one side of it is 15. And you know this fabric is on fold, so what I need to measure here too is 15 inches. I have about 16, so I have enough here. Now what I'll do next, I'm going to take the midpoint of this 15 inches, which is 7.5. Here's midpoint, I'll mark it. And this midpoint, I'll extend it down with like 1 inch allowance. Like just make it a 1 inch mark. Remember, it's a puffy sleeve, so I'm going to demarcate this fabric. I want a puff of about 8 inches. You can make yours as much as you want. So this one up here will be used for my puff. Now from this point, what I marked here, which is half of 15 inches, 7.5, I'm going to mark it here. Yes, 7.5. So this is the original line for my normal shirt sleeve. And then from here now, I'll come down by 3 inches. From this line, I'll come down by 3 inches. So in the normal sense, my shirt sleeve is meant to come from here. But since it's a puffy sleeve, I'm going to take it from up here. So what I'll do, from this point, I'll connect it down to this point before taking it. But if it's a normal shirt sleeve, I'm just going to take it like this. Let me mark it. I'm just going to take it like this. Remember, it is 1 inch here. It's a normal sleeve. It's just going to come. But since it's a puffy sleeve, I'll take it to this point, down like this before it comes back, so that this place will now be used for my puff. Hope you are getting it. So this is just all we need. And then the next thing I'll do is to take my round armhole. I'm working with a round armhole of 12 inches plus 1 to 2 inches seam allowance. So I'll connect it like this. I'll cut it out now. Just like this. So which means I'm going to gather this part. Okay, I'll gather this part like this, and then I'll fix this place to my sleeve, and this is what I'll get. So I'll do this and show you what I've come up with. I'll repeat this for the other sleeve. Then I'll stitch everything before coming back. But if you don't know how to do the stitching part, please check other videos we have here. You'll be able to learn one or two things from them. Thank you.